In the quiet winter town of Cedar Hollow, a single moment changed everything. A lone officer battling the weight of his past. A small German shepherd puppy abandoned in the snow. Two broken hearts about to collide in a way no one could predict. This is a story of courage rising from silence, of hope hidden beneath the cold, and of the kind of miracle that only appears when the world grows still. Before we begin, tell me where you are watching from today in the comments. Let us start this journey together. Cedar Hollow lay beneath a slow, deliberate snowfall, the kind that didn't simply fall from the sky, but seemed to descend with intention, like a blessing or a warning. The small mountain town, tucked between the pale shoulders of two ridges, looked half asleep beneath layers of white. Roofs sagged gently under the weight of winter, chimneys breathed out thin ribbons of smoke, and the distant forest held its silence like something sacred. The air carried the crisp scent of pine and frost, an aroma that whispered of stories buried beneath snowdrifts. Noah Hale moved through that cold world as if he were made of the same winter that blanketed the town. At 34, he had the frame of someone built to carry more than his share. Broad shoulders, a tall, steady posture, and hands that bore the faint marks of past service. His face, sharply drawn by wind and experience, carried a quiet gravity. His eyes, gray with shadows of fatigue behind them, rarely softened. 10 years ago, a calm smile had lived there. Now, only a mute strength remained. Before returning to Cedar Hollow, Noah had been a decorated soldier, awarded more medals than he cared to remember. The people of the town regarded him with a respectful distance. They knew he was a good officer, good enough to trust, but they also knew something weighed on him. He lived alone in a weather-worn cabin at the edge of the woods, a structure of pine logs with darkened windows and a door that creaked like an old memory. Some called him private, some called him haunted. Noah did not correct either label. The truth was simpler. He carried a wound no winter could numb. The explosion that had taken his team overseas hadn't left a mark on his skin, but it had carved deep fissures in his mind. The noises of daily life, ambulance sirens, sudden cracks, even the crunch of snow beneath his boots could thrust him backward into chaos. The world looked normal, but sometimes it sounded like war. That night, the storm had thickened. Snowflakes fell with heavy purpose, pushed sideways by a wind that roared between the buildings. The sky was awash of slate and moonlight, the kind of sky that warned travelers to go home early. But Noah was on shift, patrolling the outskirts of town in his dark blue SUV. The heater hummed, the radio whispered static, and outside, the world was white and inscrutable. He drove slowly down a narrow road lined with fir trees, their branches bowed by snow. The beam of his headlight stretched across the drifting flurries, illuminating little beyond the immediate path. Cedar Hollow Forest loomed beside him, quiet, deep, ancient. A place where sound vanished quickly. As he rounded a gentle bend, something jutted from the smooth blanket of snow ahead. A small, dark shape, half buried. He pressed the brake. The tires crunched, then slid slightly before catching. "What is that?" he murmured under his breath, his voice roughened by long nights and too few hours of rest. He stepped out, the cold slicing at him instantly. Snow peppered his hair and jacket as he approached the object. It was a metal canister, rusted, dented, turned on its side. That alone was strange. No one discarded things like this on the outskirts. Cedar Hollow was quiet but not careless. Noah crouched, brushing snow away. Inside the canister was a small, curled bundle of fur, a German shepherd puppy, no more than 3 months old. Its coat, though thin and damp from the cold, was a soft blend of sable and cream. Its ears drooped, barely beginning to stand. Tiny paws, pale from the frost, trembled faintly. Its eyes, half-lidded, blinked up at him with a question he felt more than heard. The pup didn't bark, didn't whine. It looked too tired for that, too afraid, too cold. Noah felt something twist inside him. He'd seen suffering. He'd seen creatures, human and otherwise, clinging to their last breath. But seeing this abandoned life, so small and surrendered to the elements, pierced him in an unexpected place. He reached a gloved hand toward the puppy. The little creature flinched a bit, then relaxed as Noah's palm hovered gently near its head. "Hey," he said softly, the word forming a white cloud in the air. "It's okay, I've got you." He slid his hands beneath the pup, cradling it as gently as if it were made of shattered glass. Its body was frighteningly limp, shivering despite the layers of his jacket. Noah pulled it close to his chest, using his own warmth as a shield. The puppy's breath was faint, puffing in thin, fragile threads. His voice cracked when he whispered, "Who left you out here, little one?" No answer came, but the pup blinked once, slow, almost apologetic, and nestled its cold nose into the fabric of his coat. That small, instinctive gesture hit Noah with the force of a memory. The night he had held his friend in the wreckage, when breaths came shallow and hope was slipping. He'd sworn he'd never feel that helplessness again. Yet, here he was, heart pounding, afraid this tiny creature would fade in his arms. He hurried back to the SUV, opening the passenger door with one hand while holding the puppy tight with the other. Inside, the warmth enveloped them both. Noah wrapped the pup deeper into his jacket before starting the engine and turning on the heat full blast. The road ahead blurred with falling snow, but he drove quickly, urgency tightening his chest. "Stay with me," he said, glancing down at the pup's still form. "Just stay awake a little longer." Its eyes fluttered, squeezed briefly shut, then opened again, meeting his with a surprising steadiness for such a weak body. Noah exhaled, something softening inside him in a way he hadn't allowed in years. He didn't believe in miracles, not anymore. But that gaze, quiet and unwavering despite the cold, felt strangely like one. Cedar Hollow. Veterinary Center glowed like a small lighthouse at the end of the snowy street. Noah's tires skidded to a stop, and he rushed out, pushing through the door with the puppy still bundled against him. He didn't know it yet, but that night, that storm, that abandoned life, everything was about to shift. And a promise had already formed on his lips as he held the trembling body close. "I won't let you die out here. Not tonight. Not ever." That vow rose like a faint spark in the frozen evening, marking the beginning of a journey neither he nor the little German shepherd could yet understand. A journey born from brokenness, a journey only possible in winter, a journey meant for both of them. Snow spiraled around Noah as he pushed through the glass doors of Cedar Hollow Veterinary Center, still holding the trembling bundle in his arms. The fluorescent lights inside glowed a muted yellow, a warm contrast to the freezing blue night pressing against the windows. His breath came out sharp, his jacket stiff with frost, and the tiny form inside it felt frighteningly light, like lifting a handful of brittle twigs instead of a living creature. The reception area was modest. 2 rows of green vinyl chairs, a pot of hardy indoor pine, and a counter stacked with pamphlets about animal care. A faint smell of antiseptic lingered in the air, softened by the scent of warm fur from animals recovering in the back rooms. Behind the counter stood Dr. Elias Marinos, a veterinarian in his late 60s. His hair, once a deep brown, had faded into a soft silver that gave him the appearance of a winter sage. His beard was trimmed neatly, though a bit uneven, evidence of a man who spent more time saving lives than grooming. His eyes, dark and calm, held the gentleness of someone who had seen enough broken things to know how to mend them without panicking. Tonight, he wore a thick wool sweater under his white coat, and the sleeves were rolled up, revealing wiry forearms. He had been preparing tea when the bell over the entrance chimed. The cup froze halfway to his lips. "Noah?" His voice carried quiet surprise. "You're soaked? What happened?" Noah pulled open the fold of his jacket, revealing the tiny German shepherd curled inside. The pup's fur was damp, its breathing shallow. Its paws, exposed to the warm air, looked pale, too pale. Dr. Marinos' face tightened. "Bring him in, now." He set down the tea and moved with surprising urgency for his age. Noah followed him past the counter, down a narrow hall lined with framed photos of the doctor with various animals. Rescued cats, rehabilitated owls, dogs with bright eyes and wagging tails. A lifetime of compassion captured in simple wooden frames. The emergency room at the end of the hall was already lit, as if expecting them. A steel table sat beneath an adjustable lamp. Cabinets full of equipment lined the walls. A heating pad lay rolled in a drawer, ready. "Set him here," Dr. Marinos instructed, gesturing to the padded surface. Noah laid the pup down carefully. For a moment, he didn't remove his hands, as though letting go would extinguish whatever small spark of life still remained. The puppy's fur brushed softly against his palms, and he withdrew them only when the doctor gently nudged his arm. The next moments unfolded with rapid precision. "Rebecca!" the doctor called. A young veterinary assistant, Rebecca Finch, appeared at once. She was 26, slight and quick-footed, with freckles scattered across her nose like winter constellations. Her red hair was tied in a loose bun, strands falling to frame her earnest, alert eyes. Rebecca had a natural softness to her manner, the kind that made frightened animals lean toward her instead of away. She hurried to the table. "Oh, poor baby." "No time," Dr. Marino said. "Hypothermia, severe." Rebecca turned on the heating lamp, bathing the small body in gentle warmth. She placed thermal blankets around the pup, moving with care as though handling a frostbitten bird. Noah stood stiffly at the foot of the table, fists clenched. He felt useless, too big, too slow, too filled with panic. Memories swirled, unbidden. The crumpled walls of a blown-out building, the metallic scent of smoke, the weight of another life he couldn't save. His breath hitched. Not again, not tonight. "What do you need me to do?" he asked, voice strained. "Step back, son," Dr. Marinos replied gently. "You've already done the most important part." The doctor checked the pup's temperature, frowned, then inserted a small catheter. "Dehydration, infection brewing in the lungs. But he's young. Young things can survive storms if they're given a chance." Rebecca nodded, adjusting the intravenous line. "He's a fighter. Look at his chest, still rising, even if barely." Noah swallowed hard. "He wasn't moving when I found him, just curled there." "Well," Rebecca said softly, "he's moving now?" The doctor glanced toward Noah. "How did you come across him?" "He was inside an old canister," Noah replied, "like someone put him there and left." Dr. Marinos muttered a low, sorrowful sound. "Cruelty is a cold thing, much colder than winter." The pup gave a tiny shudder. Rebecca stroked its head with a single finger. "That's right, sweetheart. Stay with us." A tense silence filled the room, broken only by the humming of machines and the distant moan of wind outside. The storm battered against the windows, as if trying to pry inside. Noah felt the cold in his bones, but not the physical kind. The kind left by fear. Dr. Marinos straightened. "His condition is critical, but not hopeless. We'll monitor him closely for the next several hours. The danger now is that his organs are shutting down from the cold. If we can get them warm again, slowly, steadily, he might survive." "How long before you know?" Noah asked. 20 minutes to see if he stabilizes. Several days to know if he'll truly recover. Weeks for full healing. Maybe months." Noah nodded silently, absorbing the weight of those words. Rebecca handed the doctor a set of charts. "We're low on thermal blankets, and the rescue fund is nearly empty." Marinos exhaled through his nose. "I know." Then he turned to Noah. "We'll do everything we can tonight, that much I promise. But the treatment ahead will take time, supplies, and hands. Many hands." "I'll pay," Noah said instinctively. The doctor shook his head slowly. "That's not what I'm asking. You're a good man, Noah, but I know the salary of a small-town officer. This won't be cheap, and I won't let you sink yourself into debt." "Then let me work for it," Noah said. "Let me do something. Anything." Rebecca blinked in surprise. "You'd volunteer here?" "I'll clean kennels," Noah said. "Clear snow, fix lights, haul equipment. If you need someone here overnight, I'll be here." There was a long pause. Then Dr. Marinos' expression softened. A small, approving smile tugged at his beard. "You remind me of myself when I was younger," he said. "Determined, stubborn, willing to bleed for something small and silent." Rebecca laughed lightly, though her eyes were soft. "He'll be an asset, Doctor." "Very well," Marinos said. "If you're serious, we could use the help." "I'm serious." The doctor nodded once. "Then stay." Hours passed. Noah mopped the front hall, cleared the snow piling against the door, and refilled the kettle for the doctor and assistant. Every few minutes he slipped back into the emergency room, hovering just close enough to see the rise and fall of the tiny chest beneath the blankets. Midway through the night, the pup let out a faint whimper, its first sound since Noah had found it. The noise was small, cracked, but unmistakably alive. Rebecca looked up. "He's fighting!" Noah steadied his breath. Good. Near dawn, the pup coughed, a tiny sound, but one that shook its whole fragile body. Rebecca gave him another antibiotic dose. Marinos adjusted the IV line with slow, precise fingers. Then the doctor stepped back, rubbing his forehead. We have a long road ahead, but he made it through the first night. That means something. Noah reached out, resting a hand on the pup's blanket-covered back. I don't know if dogs understand promises, he murmured, but I gave him one. I'm not breaking it. Dr. Marinos placed a hand on Noah's shoulder. Animals understand far more than we give them credit for. Snow continued falling outside, but morning light began slipping through the frosted windows, brushing everything with a faint silver glow. The storm was still fierce, but inside the clinic, warmth was winning. Rebecca yawned, stretching. You staying till the doctor kicks you out? Noah glanced at her, then at the fragile creature lying before him. I'll stay as long as he needs me. The puppy remained still, weak and silent, but its breath pushed against the cold with more strength than before. And for the first time in years, Noah felt something stir in him too. Not hope, not yet, but something close enough to make him stay. For 4 days, the storm outside the Cedar Hollow Veterinary Center showed no mercy. Snow cascaded from the sky, as if determined to bury every sound beneath its weight. Wind clawed at the windows, rattling the old wooden frames until the whole building seemed to shiver with the world beyond. Inside, however, the clinic held a fragile warmth, a pocket of light pressed against the swallowing dark. Noah Hale had barely left the emergency room. He slept on a chair when fatigue overtook him, boots still on, posture rigid, as though afraid the smallest movement would disturb the precarious balance keeping the puppy alive. Every hour he rose, checked the IV drip, adjusted the heated blankets, or gently stroked the puppy's head with a fingertip. The pup's fur felt softer now, not thawed completely, but warming slowly under the steady shield of care. The veterinary staff rotated shifts, but Noah didn't rotate out. Dr. Marinos and Rebecca urged him to rest at home, but the cabin at the edge of the woods felt too empty, too hollow, too haunted by memories that waited for quiet hours to strike. Here, near the faint, fragile sounds of life struggling on a metal table, he found something he hadn't felt in years: purpose. He worked tirelessly to repay the clinic's generosity. In the mornings, he shoveled the walkway until his arms trembled. In the afternoons, he hauled bags of kibble or replaced burnt-out bulbs in the hallway. At night, after the clinic had closed, he swept floors, washed bedding, sanitized counters, and helped Rebecca refill medical supplies. He moved with a soldier's efficiency, but there was a gentleness to him now that Rebecca noticed more each day. But the pup, silent, small, unmoving, remained the center of his gravity. On the evening of the 5th night, the storm had finally quieted. Snowdrifts piled high outside like white dunes. The clinic lay under a soft, trembling hush. Inside the emergency room, the puppy gave a faint twitch. At first, Noah thought the motion was imagined, a trick born from exhaustion. But then the tiny chest lifted a little deeper than before. A soft, almost imperceptible whine slipped out from under the pup's breath. Rebecca, who had been logging medication charts, froze with her pen in the air. "Doctor!" Before she could say more, the puppy's eyelids fluttered. A slow tremor rolled through Noah's body. He stepped closer, breath caught. The pup blinked again, longer this time, then opened its eyes fully. They were brown, deep, steady, and quiet as untouched earth. Eyes that had seen too much cold for such a young creature. Eyes that didn't plead or fear, but simply watched, as if searching for a single anchor in the room, and they found him. Noah sank to one knee beside the table. "There you are," he whispered. The puppy stared back, unmoving yet undeniably awake. Its breathing remained shallow, but the spark, the thin, fragile spark of life, shone with clarity. Rebecca wiped her eye with the back of her wrist. "He's awake. He made it through the worst." Dr. Marinos leaned forward, inspecting the pup with slow, practiced fingers. "Temperature's rising, heart rate still weak but steady. He's not out of danger yet, but this is a very good sign." Noah reached out, resting a careful hand on the blanket near the pup's paw. His fingers trembled slightly. He didn't notice. The pup blinked again and gave the smallest, quietest exhale, as if recognizing something familiar in the man beside him. Noah spoke softly, voice lowered as though afraid to break the thin thread of connection. "You're stronger than you look." "You should name him," Rebecca said, stepping back to give Noah space. "No," Noah shook his head. "Not yet. He's not mine." But even as the words left him, the pup's gaze held steady on him in a way that refuted everything he had just said. Dr. Marinos crossed his arms. "Names don't claim a soul, they guide it." Noah looked down at the small creature wrapped in blankets, at the soft fur matted with the remnants of snow, at the quiet courage inside those still brown eyes. He exhaled. "Frost." Rebecca smiled. "Because he came from snow?" "Because he survived it," Noah replied. The name settled into the room like a gentle truth, simple and certain. Over the next hours, Frost remained awake in short bursts, tiny windows of consciousness before exhaustion stole him back under. But each awakening grew a fraction longer, each twitch of his paw a little firmer, each breath a little stronger. The following morning, Dr. Marinos gathered them both in his office. "He's made it through the critical stage," the doctor said, folding his hands over a stack of charts. His eyes softened with cautious optimism. "But his lungs are damaged. He has inflammation from the cold. And his left hind leg, there's a fracture. Not severe, but bad enough." Noah nodded, jaw tight. "He'll need physical therapy once he's strong enough," the doctor continued. "Weeks of antibiotics, careful feeding, regular monitoring." "How long?" Noah asked. 3 to 4 months, Marinos said, "if you're ready for the responsibility." Noah looked through the glass window into the recovery room, where Frost lay bundled, a small warrior wrapped in warmth. "I don't run from responsibility," he said quietly. "Not anymore." The doctor studied him for a moment. "You sound like someone who's been running from something else." Noah didn't answer, but his silence was full of memories he had never named, full of nights he couldn't sleep, full of faces he couldn't save. Dr. Marinos didn't push. "Then he'll need you," the doctor said simply. "Every day." "I'll be here," Noah replied. And he was. Each evening after work and chores, Noah stayed beside Frost. He learned how. To massage the pup's leg gently, moving each joint in a slow circle to prevent stiffness. Under Rebecca's guidance, he practiced breathing exercises, cupping his hand gently against Frost's ribcage to help the lungs expand. Sometimes the pup whimpered, sometimes he slept soundlessly. But whenever Noah entered the room, Frost looked toward him, weak but responsive, as though recognizing the one person who had not left. One night, as Frost glazed the windows, Noah sat beside Frost's kennel, leaning back against the wall. The dim lamplight cast a golden glow across the pup's fur. Frost shifted slightly, inching closer until the tip of his nose touched Noah's boot. Noah felt something soften in him, something old and brittle breaking apart. "You're not the only one who's cold inside," he murmured. "But maybe we can warm up together." It was not a prayer, but it was close. And in the weeks that followed, Frost made slow, steady progress. His lungs strengthened, his appetite returned. He wagged his tail, just once small and tired, but enough to make Rebecca gasp and clap her hands. Noah smiled for the first time in months. Chapter 3 ended not with triumph, not with sudden recovery, but with a man sitting quietly beside a slowly healing dog. 2 wounded hearts breathing in the same rhythm beneath the fading winter storm. Winter loosened its grip on Cedar Hollow slowly, like a tired hand unclenching one stiff finger at a time. The snow no longer fell in relentless sheets, but drifted quietly from the pale sky, and the streets, once buried beneath white silence, began to reveal glimpses of asphalt, pine needles, and the ordinary life of a small town waking from its frozen sleep. Inside the Cedar Hollow Veterinary Center, life awakened too. Frost, now nearly 2 months into recovery, had begun to meet the world with new eyes. His coat, once thin and ragged, had thickened to a glossy sable sheen. Though his body was still small for his age, his movements were stronger, surer. He no longer lay curled in blankets all day. Instead, he stood, first trembling on weak legs, then steadier, then taking a few careful steps across the padded floor of the rehabilitation room. Noah Hale watched each milestone with a quiet wonder he didn't show aloud. He spent more time here than in his own home, arriving before dawn to help Rebecca prepare the clinic, staying long after closing to continue Frost's therapy. His uniform jacket often hung on the back of a chair, replaced by a worn gray sweater that made him look softer than the stoic officer most townsfolk knew. Tonight was one of the evenings Frost attempted walking exercises. The small recovery room was warm, the air filled with gentle smells of cotton blankets and herbal disinfectant. Soft light spilled from a floor lamp, illuminating Frost's careful steps across a foam mat. Rebecca crouched nearby, encouraging him with a smile that warmed the space even further. Frost lifted his injured hind leg, set it down, wobbled, and caught himself. "That's it," Rebecca murmured, slow and steady. Noah kneeled beside the pup, one hand hovering near Frost's side to steady him if he stumbled. "You're getting stronger," he said quietly. "One day, you'll run like you were born to." The German Shepherd pup looked up at him, eyes bright, tail giving a tiny wag. That single movement, the faint tap of hope, made something inside Noah tighten and ease all at once. For the first time in years, the officer felt a warmth spreading through him, unexpected and unfamiliar. It wasn't joy exactly. It was gentler, deeper, something like returning to the world after standing too long behind a closed door. By the third month, Frost could walk several feet without help. He explored the hallways of the clinic, nose pressed forward, tail curling like a small question mark. Rebecca laughed whenever he wandered into the supply closet, sniffing each item as if cataloging the entire universe. "You've made the place feel alive," she told Noah one afternoon, as Frost poked his head under a rolling cart. "I haven't seen this much joy here since before Dr. Marinos' old shepherd passed." Noah gave a faint smile. "He's good company." "He's more than that," as she said. "He's good for you." Noah said nothing, but he didn't deny it. The fourth month arrived with warmer winds. Cedar Hollow's frozen edges softened. Birds returned to the trees, filling the forest with shy melodies that fluttered like new beginnings. Frost had grown taller, his legs lengthened, and though he still walked with a slight limp, he moved with increasing confidence. But healing, true healing, rarely happens in a straight line. It was a quiet night at the clinic. Snowflakes drifted lazily outside, lit by a flickering street lamp. Noah was in the back room, tightening a loose cabinet hinge for Rebecca. Frost lay curled beside him, dozing lightly, his ears twitching at every sound. Somewhere in the distance, a siren began to wail. The sound sliced through the silence, sharp and metallic. For most people, it was familiar, routine. But for Noah, it was a trigger, an echo of explosions, screams, and smoke-filled air. His hands froze on the screwdriver. His breath hitched. The siren grew louder as the ambulance passed down the road, and Noah's vision blurred at the edges. He felt his chest tighten, the room shrinking around him, the air becoming too thin. His heartbeat thundered in his ears. Memories surged like a wave, too bright, too loud, too close. He dropped the screwdriver, his knees hit the floor. He tried to slow his breathing, to ground himself the way therapists once taught him, but the past flooded in before he could reach for control. His hands trembled violently, his throat closed. He could hear the explosion again. Real or imagined, it didn't matter. Then something pressed gently into his lap. Frost. The pup moved without hesitation, despite the slight limp still in his hind leg. He nudged his head against Noah's torso, pushing firmly, grounding him with a soft whine. Frost's warm weight settled against him, solid and steady. Noah's trembling fingers touched the dog's fur. Frost didn't pull away. He leaned closer, resting his chin on Noah's leg. His breathing was slow, deep, a rhythm Noah unconsciously began to mirror. In, out, in, out. Noah's heartbeat softened. The room steadied. The fragments of memory faded like embers cooling in snow. When he finally lifted his head, his eyes were damp. Frost looked back at him with a gaze so steady, so loyal, it felt like the world itself had reached out a hand to pull him back. "Thank you," Noah whispered, voice breaking. Frost gave a soft sound, half whine, half reassurance, and nudged his chin upward again, as if insisting Noah stand straighter. Rebecca, who had been in the hallway and witnessed part of the moment, watched silently. The look in her eyes wasn't pity. It was understanding. It was respect. "You're not alone, you know," she said gently. Noah nodded, throat tight, but words failed him. Frost stayed pressed to his side until long after the siren faded. In the weeks that followed, something shifted. Noah laughed, an actual laugh, when Frost tried to chase a mop, tangling himself in the handle. He smiled when Rebecca dropped by with homemade stew for the clinic staff. He found himself talking with people again. Not much, but enough that they noticed the change. The haunted heaviness that once clung to him like frost began to melt. And Frost, once a trembling creature on the edge of life, became a quiet sentinel, always watching Noah, always attuned to his breaths, always stepping close when Noah's past stirred too strongly. Dr. Marinos noticed the change as well. "One heals the body," he said one evening, "and the other heals the soul. You're good for each other." Noah didn't argue, because it was true. Frost had become the heartbeat of Noah's day, and Noah had become the anchor Frost looked for in every room. Two beings once broken in the cold had begun to stitch themselves back together, thread by thread, moment by moment. By the end of the 4th month, Frost could run, slowly, carefully, with a limp that grew smaller each week. Noah jogged beside him in the small fenced yard behind the clinic, the snow melting around their feet into gleaming pools of spring. When Frost ran, he didn't just move, he soared, and Noah, keeping pace, felt something inside him lift with every step. A wounded man, a rescue dog, healing each other without ever needing the language to explain how. Spring arrived in Cedar Hollow like a shy guest, quietly at first, then all at once. Snow retreated from rooftops, sliding down in soft sheets that sparkled briefly before melting into the earth. The wind, once filled with bitter howls, now carried the faint fragrance of damp soil, budding branches, and distant pine. The forest slowly regained its voice, and the town, after months of winter silence, began to hum with life again. By now, Frost was nearly 6 months old. His legs had grown longer, his coat had thickened into rich shades of sable and charcoal, and the limp in his hind leg had faded into something barely noticeable, just a whisper of the storm he had survived. His eyes, bright and perceptive, held both the innocence of youth and the depth of an animal who had known the cold far too early. Noah saw the changes every day. He saw them when Frost trotted confidently behind him, when the pup nudged him awake in the early mornings, when he wagged his tail at the sight of familiar faces at the clinic. There was still a quietness to Frost, a thoughtful, mellow spirit beneath the canine energy. But there was something else now, too. Joy. Real, unguarded joy. Frost had returned to the world not as a victim, but as a survivor. One late afternoon, Rebecca was standing outside the clinic, leaning against the railing as the sun dipped low behind the ridge. She wiped her hands on her scrubs and opened her phone to a local community page. Her eyes widened. "Oh my goodness," she breathed. "Noah, look." He stepped out with Frost trotting beside him. "What is it?" She handed him the phone. On the screen was a video taken a few days earlier by an elderly woman who lived across from the clinic. It showed Frost learning to run, still a bit lopsided, but determined, while Noah jogged beside him, encouraging him with quiet words. The video was raw, simple, and unedited, but something about the moment, about the bond, had resonated with people. "It has over 40,000 views," Rebecca said. "People are calling him the miracle pup of Cedar Hollow." Noah blinked, looking genuinely startled. 40,000? Rebecca grinned. "And climbing." Frost, oblivious to his rising fame, nudged Noah's hand with his wet nose, then sat down obediently. Noah ruffled his ears. "Well," Noah murmured, "I guess you're a celebrity now." Frost gave a single bark, as if agreeing. The video spread beyond the town, shared on rescue forums, dog lover pages, and even a small regional newspaper. Comments flooded in, people expressing admiration, warmth, hope. Many offered to adopt Frost, touched by his resilience. Rebecca tried reading some aloud, but Noah shook his head gently. "He's not ready to leave," he said. He didn't add the truth behind the words, and neither am I. Then, one morning, a car pulled into the clinic's parking lot. A clean silver sedan with a city license plate. 3 people stepped out, a tall man with a gentle posture, a woman with soft eyes and a calm smile, and a little boy holding a bright red ball. The father, Daniel Wilson, was in his early 40s, wearing a simple vest over a flannel shirt. He had the air of someone used to speaking in classrooms, warm voice, patient demeanor, and the steady gaze of a man who listened deeply. The mother, Emily, was a charity worker, her presence almost immediately comforting. She was average height, with dark curls tied back and warm brown skin that glowed in the sunlight. She had the sort of expression that made even strangers feel seen. Then there was their son, Oliver, a thin, freckled 8-year-old with sandy blonde hair and eyes full of hopeful curiosity. He held the red ball like a treasure. Rebecca greeted them warmly. "Hello, how can we help you today?" Daniel stepped forward. "We saw the video. We read the article. We'd like to meet Frost." The name hung in the air like something delicate. Noah, standing nearby, stiffened a little. Frost sat at his heel, ears perked. "Of course," Rebecca said. "He's in the back. Noah, would you like to bring him out?" Noah hesitated, then nodded. "Sure." He returned moments later, with Frost trotting beside him, tail gently swaying. The pup stopped when he saw the visitors, head tilting with interest. Oliver gasped. "He's beautiful." Emily knelt down slowly, letting Frost sniff her hand. Frost approached carefully, curious but polite, then touched her fingers with his nose. Emily's smile widened. Daniel crouched too. "Hello, young man." Frost wagged once. Then Oliver rolled the red ball toward Frost. The pup's ears shot up. He bounded forward, still slightly uneven in his stride, and pounced clumsily on the ball. Oliver burst into laughter, and Frost barked with excitement. The two played like they had known each other for years. Rebecca whispered to Noah, "Looks like a perfect match." Noah didn't answer. He watched Frost chase the ball in small circles, tail high, eyes sparkling. The pup ran to Oliver again and again, nudging the ball back toward him with focused enthusiasm. The Wilsons watched with growing joy. "He's exactly what we hoped for," Daniel said. "Gentle, smart, and he seems to get along wonderfully with Oliver." Emily nodded. "We have a big yard, lots of time to give him attention. We really believe he could be part of our family." Rebecca looked toward Noah. And Noah, he felt something tighten in his chest. He should have been happy. A good family. A child who adored him. A home full of warmth. Frost would be loved. Frost would be safe. Wasn't that what mattered? He swallowed hard. "Frost," Noah called softly. Frost paused, ball in his mouth. His tail wagged twice. Then he turned toward Noah. Just a glance. Then he looked back at Oliver. Just a glance. A tiny moment. But Noah felt something deep inside him falter. He crouched down, forcing a small smile. "Go on, boy. Play." But his voice shook. Rebecca rested a hand on his arm. "Are you okay?" Noah nodded, too quickly. "I'm fine," he lied. After half an hour of play, Daniel stood and dusted snow from his knees. "We'd love to move forward with the adoption." Rebecca began explaining the process. Emily touched Noah's shoulder gently. "You've done an amazing job with him, truly. I can see how much he trusts you." But Noah could barely hear her. His gaze remained fixed on Frost as the pup nudged the ball toward Oliver for the 100th time. Then Daniel clipped a temporary leash on Frost's collar, and Frost froze. Not violently, not dramatically, just froze. His tail lowered, his ears perked downward. His eyes darted from Oliver to Noah, then back to Noah again. Daniel tugged gently. "Come on, boy." Frost took one step, then stopped, then turned. In a heartbeat, he broke from the leash's slack and ran. Ran straight past the Wilsons, past Rebecca, past the ball rolling across the floor. Straight to Noah. He sat against Noah's leg, pressing his body firmly into him. Not moving, not budging, not choosing anyone else. Oliver's smile faded slightly, replaced by a quiet understanding even a child could feel. Emily touched her husband's arm. "He's already chosen." And Daniel, with a slow nod, agreed. Some bonds aren't meant to be separated. Rebecca wiped a tear discreetly. But then something unexpected happened. Emily stood, looked toward the row of kennels in the back hallway, and said softly, "There are other dogs here who need a home too, right?" Rebecca brightened. "Yes, several." Within 20 minutes, Oliver was playing with a gentle old retriever mix named Maple, gray-muzzled, shy, and in desperate need of a quiet family. The connection was instant. Daniel and Emily filled out adoption papers for Maple before leaving. A miracle still happened, just not the expected one. As the Wilsons drove away with Maple, Frost curled beside Noah, resting his head on Noah's shoe as if sealing an unspoken vow. Noah's fingers threaded through Frost's fur. "Looks like you're stuck with me, buddy." Frost gave a soft, satisfied huff. And in that moment, Noah realized something profound. Frost hadn't been waiting for a home. He had already found one. Spring in Cedar Hollow never arrived with fireworks or trumpet calls. It slipped in quietly, like a gentle breath warming a frozen window. Snow retreated from rooftops, peeling away in slow drifts, and the ice along the forest paths thinned into shimmering mirrors of meltwater. Birds returned timidly at first, then boldly, filling the pines with a chorus that felt almost too bright after months of winter silence. For Noah Hale, spring brought something even stranger, a second heartbeat in his cabin. Frost came home on a soft April morning, trotting excitedly as Noah opened the cabin door and let him step into his new world. The old wooden cabin, which had spent years holding only Noah's heavy silences, suddenly felt too small and too alive at the same time. The first thing Frost did was sniff every corner, from the stone fireplace to the worn couch to the small rug near the door that Noah always forgot to shake out. His tail flicked with cautious excitement. Then he circled twice and plopped down right beside Noah's boots, looking up at him with a satisfied, almost triumphant expression. "You like it here?" Noah asked, closing the door behind him. Frost thumped his tail once, then twice, then rolled onto his back as if claiming the entire cabin as his own. It was the first time Noah laughed out loud inside these walls in many years. The sound felt foreign, surprising, and warm. Noah prepared a small space for Frost beside the fireplace, a thick, soft dog bed he had purchased after trying 3 others that Frost had decided were too thin, too lumpy, or too cold. Next to the bed was a stainless steel bowl of water, a matching bowl for food, and a leather collar Noah had chosen carefully for durability and comfort. Frost sniffed everything, pawed the bed once, then dragged it an inch closer to Noah's favorite armchair, because apparently being within 4 feet wasn't close enough. "You're needy?" Noah quipped. Frost's ears perked. He nudged Noah's leg again. "Fine," Noah sighed, moving the bed the final inch. "There. Happy?" Frost exhaled a small huff of satisfaction and curled down, his head resting just close enough to touch Noah's boot. Outside, the last patches of snow melted under a soft sun. Inside, the cabin glowed with a warmth Noah couldn't explain. Something inside him loosened, like a knot finally untangling. For the first time in a decade, Noah didn't feel alone. Days passed with new rhythms. Every morning, Frost nudged Noah awake with a cold nose pressed to his cheek, or with a quiet whine that meant breakfast. "Now, please." The two walked into the woods together, Frost trotting ahead, stopping every few steps to make sure Noah was still close behind. In the evenings, Noah read by the fireplace while Frost dozed at his feet, his breath steady and peaceful, tapping gently against the floorboards like a soft reminder that the world no longer belonged only to Noah's memories. And every night, the cabin hummed with 2 breaths instead of 1. Noah had spent years afraid of silence, because silence brought memories. But Frost filled the silence with presence, not loud or demanding, but certain and warm. Sometimes Noah woke from old nightmares, flashes of explosions, dust-covered faces, voices he could never save. Frost always seemed to sense it. The pup would climb onto the edge of the bed, rest his head on Noah's pillow, and press his warm weight against the officer's shoulder until his breath steadied again. "Good boy," Noah whispered each time. "Thank you." And Frost always answered with a soft rumble deep in his chest, as if saying, "You're not alone anymore." One late morning, after a routine checkup, Dr. Marinos invited Noah into his office. The old veterinarian's silver hair shone under the clinic lights, and his glasses dangled precariously at the tip of his nose. "How's he adjusting?" the doctor asked. "Like he's lived with me forever," Noah said, watching Frost sniff a potted plant in the corner. Marinos smiled. That's what healing looks like. Slow, steady, and then, suddenly, all at once. He pulled out a folder. Inside were papers stamped with the state's official search and rescue emblem. I think Frost has potential, the doctor said. Not for police K-9 work yet. He's too young, and his leg needs to grow stronger. But there's a program in the state called the Early Search Candidate Evaluation. It's designed for dogs under a year old to test temperament, stamina, scent instinct, and responsiveness. Noah blinked. You think he's ready for something like that? I think, Marinos said carefully, that Frost has already survived something most creatures never do. That gives him a resilience you can't train. And you, Noah, well, you found purpose again. The two of you could help others one day. Frost lifted his head as if he understood his name being discussed. Noah kneeled and scratched behind his ears. What do you think, buddy? Want to help people? Frost wagged his tail, steady and certain. Marinos continued. The program starts when he turns 1. That gives you time. No pressure. But I believe in both of you. Noah took a slow breath. It wasn't the plan he once had for his life. He'd lost that path long ago, buried in sand and smoke. But this quiet, unexpected road, felt like something he could follow. If God allows it, Noah said softly, we'll try. Marinos nodded with quiet satisfaction. Then, that's enough for now. Summer crept into Cedar Hollow with warm breezes and sunlight that dappled through the pines like liquid gold. Frost grew rapidly, each week taller, stronger, more self-assured. His gait had smoothed into something nearly perfect, the injury fading into a small history etched beneath his fur. In the local park, people often stopped to watch the pair, a tall, quiet officer with a gentle smile, and a German shepherd trotting faithfully at his side. Children pointed and waved, elderly neighbors nodded approvingly. Even the birds seemed to chirp louder when Frost bounded past. One afternoon, an old man sitting on a bench whispered to his wife, "Look at that! Some partnerships are chosen by heaven." Perhaps he was right. For when Noah walked through Cedar Hollow with Frost running happily beside him, the world seemed to settle into place, soft, whole, and filled with a peace he once believed he would never feel again. A man who had survived war, a dog who had survived winter. Two broken spirits stitched together not by words or plans, but by presence, by faith, by something that felt like quiet grace. And every evening, as they walked home along the forest edge, the sun falling behind the snowy ridge, Frost stayed always close, never more than a step away, as if he feared the distance itself might break the fragile miracle between them. Noah sometimes reached down to rest his hand on Frost's head. "Come on, boy," he'd say, "let's go home." And Frost would look up at him with unwavering loyalty, as if saying, "I already am." A winter that had nearly taken everything from both of them had instead given them something rare, a home warm enough for two once broken hearts to beat whole again. This story reminds us that God's miracles do not always arrive with thunder or bright signs. Sometimes they come quietly through a loyal dog who refuses to give up, through a weary officer who chooses compassion, or through the small moments of courage that God places in our hearts when we think we have none left. In everyday life, we all face storms of fear, loneliness, or uncertainty. Yet God walks beside us even when the path feels cold. He guides our steps, protects our families, and sends help in ways we often recognize only afterward. If this story touched your heart, share it with someone who needs hope today. Leave a comment to tell us your thoughts, and remember to subscribe for more stories of faith and courage. May God bless you and your family with peace, strength, and protection wherever you are. And if you believe in the quiet miracles He sends, type Amen in the comments.